Welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
I'm Shannon Lawrence.
And I'm MB Partlow.
Quick content warning before we get started. This podcast may contain language and disturbing content, so enter at your own risk.
Hi. Hello. I tried to remember it and I've already forgotten it. I had a really bad dad joke I was going to tell and I just can't even remember it now.
It's funny because every week, Joe Bob, he ends every episode on jokes. With Darcy the mail girl, please stop.
Tonight because today we're recording on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And we normally record on Sundays. So tonight on Svengoolie, the movie is The Ghost and Mr. Chicken.
Oh,
it's a Don Knotts. Yes, I cannot wait because I don't remember it really well, but I remember seeing that on TV like a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I adored Don Knotts when I was a kid. Also, Dom DeLuise.
The other one I love with Don Knotts is the incredible Mr. Limpet. Yes,
the fish
where he becomes a fish.
Yes. Oh yeah, I love the Apple Dumpling Gang, which had two of my favorite people in it. Because isn't it Don Knotts? Wait, and the guy from Carol Burnett, wasn't he in it?
Tim Conway.
Love him. Is he in that?
I can't remember. Maybe.
I don't remember either. I adored him as a child also.
Dom DeLuise. I totally agree. Didn't you always want to meet him?
Yeah, because he seemed great.
Just funny. And
I was like, yay, Burt Reynolds is hot. But boy, do I love Dom DeLuise.
Yes.
And watching Cannonball Run again. And I told Jeff there's a scene
I wanted to rewatch.
Yes, there's a scene. He has an alter ego. He has an alter ego and it's like a superhero. And so all of a sudden he'll be in this superhero thing. And I was like, okay, this is why I liked Cannonball Run as a kid. I loved Cannonball Run and Smokey and the Bandit. And I also liked Burt Reynolds' sidekick in Smokey and the Bandit. And I love when he sings. But
so way back.
Yeah.
Probably Jerry Reed. In the early 90s. So the internet was just becoming a thing. And you could get CDs.
Yeah.
To play. Were we getting CD movies then? Like 92, 93?
I think CD movies? You mean like DVDs?
DVDs, yeah.
No.
Okay. But you could still
Because I remember what apartment I lived in when we got our first DVDs with our first DVD player.
Okay. But you could still get CDs that had games on them and simple programs on them that you could run on your computer. I had Dom DeLuise's Cooking. It was like a 2 CD set. And it's him in the kitchen. Oh, it was so funny, and it won't play anymore.
Aww.
Because
have you looked on YouTube to see if it's there now?
I have not.
It's an option. Doesn't mean it'll be there, but you could see.
Oh, I should look it up, because the whole thing where he's trying to teach people how to pronounce gnocchi.
Oh,
my God. It's just, because it's him, just being him.
Yay.
I'd forgotten about it until we started talking about Dom.
Yeah. I was like, you guys experienced both of these men, Burt Reynolds in All Dogs Go to Heaven, Dom DeLuise. They both do voices for it. It's always fun when we can show them something and it's like this bit like Angela Lansbury, for example, Beauty and the Beast, right? Yes. That's the first they would have heard that voice. And then you put on a movie and Bedknobs and Broomsticks, of course.
Loved Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
What was I found a flea market flip, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. Reality show to put on while I was doing my work deadlines the other day.
I love Flea Market Flip.
Oh, have you watched it?
Yes.
So there were two women, and one of them was like, if we wait, I'm going to Portobello Road. And I was like, oh my God, is Portobello Road like Bedknobs and Broomsticks? And Jeff's like, no. Oh. He said they might have stands and stuff they pull out, but it would be once a week. It's not like that all the time. Right. And I was like, well, that's stupid. And I don't want to hear about it. Crushed my childhood dreams. Such a big deal. It has its own song. Come on.
Well,
I still know the song, and I'm not going to sing it.
I know.
FYI,
I know you are not. Even though I'm giving you the closest I have to puppy dog eyes, which is just, I look a little cross-eyed. And
is it a Siamese cat puppy?
Is it a puppy that's been hit by a car?
It's tongue hanging out the side of its mouth because it doesn't have teeth anymore.
Generally not puppy, but that's okay. You're out of teeth. You're at the other end.
You're at the other end. I call all dogs puppies.
But that's true. Puppers.
Yeah, they're all puppies to me. It can be a 50-year-old dog. It's still a puppy. Old puppy. There's a really old puppy. When I went hiking the other day, it had a big tumor maybe over on the side, but it was just a little white face. You can always see their little white face, right? And there was a younger dog with it on a leash, and the older dog was off the leash. But I was fine with it because I'm a person who's big on having a fucking dog on the leash when you're going to be walking near me. And we just walked by. He was very well behaved. He was an old puppy, and I wanted to go snuggle the old puppy because I was like, "You're well behaved, and I love you," because I am not a puppy person.
Okay, besides the fact that nobody in Hawaii swears, the dogs don't bark. Every dog, and they all look like mutts. They all look like they're either little or giant, and they've all got some pit in them. But the dogs are like. They're as chill as the owners. They are. The dog, they hang out in the back of the truck. They don't bark when somebody comes up. Nothing. They just look like, my dude.
See, I'm conflicted because I haven't put Hawaii on the list because I don't like that it's still so much in the throes of colonization. I would feel like an invader visiting it. And so until I can get past that, and I met some people from Hawaii randomly at a Qdoba here one time, and we were talking and chatting because they were like, "You say it right," and I was like, "Well, thank you." Hawaii is how they said to say it. So they were like, "You need to go," and I'm like, "Really? You want people to go visit?" But that's the thing is, some of them would, and some of them wouldn't. Yes. Just like not all Native Americans have a problem with red skin, and some do, because guess what? They're individuals, and all their feelings matter. Fuckers. So I'm so tired of that. I have my friend's an Indian, and they don't care if you call them Indian, and they don't care if you use redskin. Well, good for that one individual. They don't speak for every person in every fucking tribe across this country. So I just hate it. I get that thrown at me all the time.
The church did.
I have an Indian friend. Good for you.
The church did go into Hawaii and fuck everything up just like they do.
So, see, I have that conflict where it sounds magical and amazing, and I love the outdoors and I need sunshine. So probably the perfect place for me. And I'm like, maybe I could squeeze by. Maybe if I get tan enough, they won't know I don't belong there.
At one of the places, it was a big family-run place, and they said, and now our granddaughter is going to do blah, 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 and there's a pause, and they go, that's right, the white Hawaiian. I was like, God. Because she was very fair, not as fair-skinned as I am, but very fair-skinned.
It's exactly the shit we pull on my brother that I've stopped doing now, but that's funny, and I get it.
So we went to this one place where they did a bunch of dances from different parts of Polynesia. The men all had on what looked like fairly accurate period costumes. A loincloth, a little tiny sarong. Now, they all had like little short bike shorts underneath.
Okay.
So there was nothing was swinging in the breeze. The women, I was like, I asked Joe afterward because I'm like, did you notice anything about the costuming? And he's like, I don't know where you're going, so you're going to just have to tell me. So I said, the guys are all wearing what looks like historically accurate costumes. I said, the women's costumes all look like they were post missionaries.
Yeah.
Like calico dresses. And Joe said, well, do you think maybe that's because the women's didn't wear tops? Sometimes they had like shells or legs,
pictures
and skirts. And I said,
from World War II.
I said, but they let the guys wear the little shorts. Why couldn't the girls wear bikini tops?
Comfort.
I just thought it was.
They felt more comfortable after. I will say though, if you were to see, like the Cherokee people expect something completely different, but the clothes they were wearing before the Trail of Tears were actually calico dresses and stuff like that. But there was already white influence there, so I don't know. But what is considered traditional Cherokee garb, I'm saying, is something that somebody from outside might not view as traditional Cherokee garb.
I have not looked it up. I said to Joe, when we get home and I have a big computer screen instead of my phone, I am going to look up what the different islands, what their traditional dress would have been.
Yeah.
And I
mean, there would have been traditional dress before that, but what we consider a traditional dress is just like for certain tribes, it's ribbon dresses and stuff like that would be now considered traditional dress because they're not going to walk around topless, right? Like you're saying.
Right.
So,
and it wasn't like I wanted them to all be
No, I know. But I'm just as part of explanation coming from maybe a similar culture, but different, obviously, that who knows.
And it was one of the weird things I noticed was, because we went to this big, it's called the Polynesian Cultural Center, and it's set up in 5 different villages. So you can see what the differences are and what their traditional crafts were. It's run by and is adjacent to or on the campus of Brigham Young University, Hawaii.
Ew.
So a lot of the young people there, it's like, we're going to give you a ginormous cut in tuition, and we're also going to give you a paycheck if you work at the park and perform at the park. So, because I don't think, I could be wrong, again, I have not researched this, don't think all Polynesian men had short Republican-looking haircuts.
No.
Because I was looking for one, I'm like, where's the big guy with the big
hair?
The big hair, and but every woman we saw who was working there and performing there had long hair. All the men had very short hair. And I'm like, and at least one woman I know was wearing a wig because I could tell. So I was just like, they've made some interesting choices.
Okay. So then it does sound like, the women have to be proper. And it's odd. How different the male near nudity is still more acceptable than well, I'm not gonna let's change the subject because I have opinions and they're not gonna be good ones.
They would be interesting, but
we don't need it to take that turn on the podcast because people get enough of that from me anyway.
Turn into the darkness. So what have you got to talk about this week? Because I've got some fucking big heaping helping of mayhem. So what have you got?
I'm calling this the Biden murder.
And you just got everyone's attention. You do know that. You just got everyone's attention.
That is what drew me to it, was that in the title about Biden, but it's not actually called the Biden murder on there. Okay. So we're going to get a little political. I tried to make it as even as I could in the end, despite my personal feelings. On the evening of November 14th, 2020, so right after the election, folks, at about 7:30 p.m. in El Paso County, Texas, is also El Paso City. So it's just El Paso, Texas. A 50-year-old attorney named Georgette Kaufmann pulled into her detached garage set at the back of her Manhattan Heights home. What she didn't know was that someone had been casing her home only 4 days before, but not for a robbery. She was greeted in the garage by someone with a shotgun and killed instantly. When police arrived later, they would find the car engine still running and the driver's side door partially open. Georgette's body lay beside the car. The perpetrator proceeded to the back door where he climbed the porch steps, but found the wrought iron exterior door locked because it's not the 80s. Inside, Georgette's husband, Daniel Kaufmann, who was also an attorney, they actually both worked for the Texas Attorney General's office, and I think they worked in a lot of family law custody type stuff. He heard something at the back door, and he thought, it's Georgette coming in the back door. So he approached the door, but before he could open it, 5 gunshots came through that door.
Georgette had a bad day.
Well, Georgette,
but he's
thinking,
why is my wife shooting me?
Right? He's like, oh, honey, what? Bad case.
But I mean, that's what you do. If you think you hear your spouse's car pull in.
And then you hear something in the back, you're like, for some reason, she came in the back instead of the front. Okay.
Which it happens.
So he went to open the door. The gunshots came through it. He was struck in the head, the wrist, and the shoulder. And 2 shots missed him completely. That's pretty good considering it was through 2 closed doors. Yeah. He dropped to the ground, and he crawled to the front door and was able to get out and make his way to the neighbor's house and call for help. By the time police got there, the man was long gone, with no indication of why he'd attacked the couple. The case would go cold for nearly a year before a series of events came together to lead to the perpetrator and his crazed ravings. Here we go. In September 2021, it hit the news that a 38-year-old man named Joseph Angel Alvarez had been arrested for the murder and assault following the highly debated 2020 election, where, in case anybody doesn't know this, Trump lost, but his legions of fans insisted he'd been cheated out of the presidency. What led police to Alvarez was something called a Google geofence search warrant. And so this is done through Google. And they can basically, it allowed police to track the cell phone activity in that specific area. And the geofence, you have this limited radius basically from the warrant place, right?
Okay, so you can't
just do everybody everywhere.
Okay. But God, the Google warrant.
Yeah. Yeah. To get Google to allow this. So they were able to track that activity around the Kaufmann house during the time of the shooting. And what they came across was Alvarez's cell phone, and it showed he'd been by their house on November 10th, 4 days before as well. This discovery led them to his cell phone number and eventually to his Facebook page. While they're still kind of checking this, you can't just get a warrant because this person was by there.
Yeah.
Though they did not live in that area, but there was a park. So he posted that he'd been fired from the General Aviation Terminal. And looking into this, it turned out he'd been fired for allegedly stalking one of his female coworkers. And what he did is he tracked her, he found her schedule, and then on his day off, he was waiting for her and he accosted her. But I could not find what he accosted her about. And so you'll see when I bring up some next things, did it have to do with this, or was this one of those standard stalking, I'm attracted to her and she doesn't want me? Which is the more typical kind, right? And that would actually make more sense to me, but I could not find that. I don't know what her name was. I wouldn't give it if I did, but it would have been nice to know what he accosted her about. The next thing police found that would help them get the arrest affidavit was an email to a U.S. Army intelligence group. 902D is what it's called. He'd sent it the night of the murders. The email included photos of Memorial Park, which was next to the Kaufmann's home, as well as pictures of their driveway. It's thought these photos were taken on the 10th when he was checking things out. In his email, he raved about something called the Jewish Satanist Party. He also ranted about abortion being Jewish child sacrifices. So we have an anti-Semite here. just to remind you of his name. This is a very, very Latino man. So, because I was telling my husband about this and he said, oh, white supremacist. And I said, nope. No. Ultimately, it would be found that Alvarez had written a 22-page manifesto detailing his fight against the Jewish Satanist Party, also defined as pro-choicers. It was unclear to me exactly what was in his email to the military group versus his manifesto versus other emails they said they were able to track once they had their hands on his computer. But he was a raving lunatic, basically. And he also appears to have admitted to the killing and attack. And so I don't know if that was in that military email. And I'm like, why the fuck didn't the military check into it?
Yeah.
So,
or pass it along.
Yeah. I'm a little irritated about
this isn't really in our scope of operations, but you should know about this.
He'd been focusing on Memorial Park already as a place of, quote, ritualistic satanic ground to conduct abortions by manner of magic. So we are looking at some mental illness here, clearly. He felt that a Jewish satanic cult had been practicing at the park and that at least 4 houses adjacent to the park must contain cult members. So there were 4 that were on his target list. The Kaufmann's house was only one of those. The thing that drew him to the Kaufmann residence, according to some of his emails or whatever, first was the combination of a Biden sign out front, an LGBTQ plus support sign, pro-democratic posters, it said. I'm like, they had posters? Like, okay. And a Trump doll hanging from their front porch. So they were really liberal. Annoyingly, I found a photo of the Biden sign in their yard, but not the Trump doll. So I'm like, was it a new situation? What are we talking? This is why I will never put political stickers. I have put pro-LGBTQ plus stuff. Right. I guess if I draw those people, I draw them. But I don't believe in advertising my political leanings when I'm out in public. I just don't understand the point. I'm not going to put bumper stickers for who I'm voting. Who cares? Who cares? Like, I don't want to know when I'm out in public. And the thing I've noticed is it does taint my automatically my opinion. If somebody cuts me off and they have a Trump sticker, it's more apocryphal in my head.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I understand that I have a slant and a lean. I don't care. I don't want to know this about people. I don't care. So I don't advertise my political affiliations other than maybe support for, again, LGBTQ plus and stuff like that. But I just don't get it. I don't get the Trump flags. I don't get it. None of it makes any sense to me. There's no reason we should be treating any of them like they're anything other than shit politicians. All of them. All of them are shit politicians. There's a couple that are maybe on the lower end of that, and that maybe I can see more good in them. But there's no reason any politician should have a cult following ever. It's sick.
Yes.
Okay, that's my opinion right there. But like this is why these people died, because they had a political sign in their front yard.
That's ridiculous.
You know what I mean? Like, what a stupid reason to kill somebody, and what a stupid reason to die.
Yes.
It bothers me because it's so base. It's so,
and it's not like they were even
useless.
Not like it would be better, but it's not like they were even at a rally or they were out demonstrating. Because you should be.
They were just living their lives.
You should be able to put whatever
you should, and that's the thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to.
Right.
I just don't understand why you want to. It doesn't sway anybody to have. If I put a Biden thing out here, I just hate politicians right now. I hate them all because none of them are doing anything in our best interest. They're doing it in their best interest, and I'm tired. But I can go way more. See, this is why I knew I needed to steer away from the Mormon shit. But.
Yes. Okay.
Like, why? Like, I don't need to advertise anything out there because I'm not going to change anybody's mind by putting a Biden sign in front of my house.
No.
And I feel like all the people who put stuff out tend to think they think they're better than other people. That's the Trump flags. They clearly think they're better than other people.
And we are getting...
I've been in Manitou Springs when they've come through on a parade. And they're doing that on purpose because for people who don't live here, Manitou Springs is famously liberal.
Yes.
It's our hippie city, okay?
It is.
It's our pot city. It's a very chill, neat place to go. And there's absolutely no reason for somebody to drive circles around that town with Trump flags on except to send a message. And that annoyed me when I was there and that was happening. Because why? Why come into... They're minding their own business. You know this area is like this. Why do this?
And are you getting the flyers every fucking day in the mail about the mayor race?
Yes.
And I am now getting texts.
Yep, I am too.
I am like, how
I used to be on a list
like...
not to, so I'd like to know how they're reaching me.
Because every time I get, it doesn't matter who it's for.
It's a different number every time.
I block it.
Yep.
Because I'm like, I did not ask for any of you fuckers to text me anything.
No. I have not.
Why am I getting
Why is this
it?
suddenly allowed?
Yeah.
We cannot get charged for that shit. I don't think we don't have a thing that, but still, like you could. So they're actually possibly getting you charged for something. I don't know if anybody still has those plans, but anyway, they still have that default message on the bottom of things. If you sign up for these text alerts, you may be responsible for,
Right. Yeah.
So it should not be legal for you to text me. Wow. See, this is going to get ranty, but going to get. I'm actually holding back a lot right now.
I'm buckling up.
But so there was at least one of the other houses of those four did have a Biden sign. I'm thinking it was the extremity of this and maybe the Trump doll that pushed him over the edge and had him go after them first. While I know he'd been there before, I'm not sure he knew they were specifically Jewish. He just happened to hit, there's nothing showing that he looked them up and knew maybe that they were Jewish. It was that park and whatever weird theory had come up within his brain and their proximity to it, and then the shit out in front of their house, basically.
Yep.
As far as it appears at this point. So while Alvarez had been arrested and is currently in the El Paso County Jail, I couldn't find any results for the case, despite him being arrested in 2021 for a 2020 crime. So I actually went to the jail records, and it does still show him as being in jail, and the booking date, September 9th, 2021, which is when he was arrested, and that jives with the news reports. The charges filed against him are 1 count of murder and 1 count of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Without a case number, I was unable to pull his court records. I tried to dig into this because it frustrated me that there was no update. But he is still in there in the same booking charge, and it is a jail, not, say, a prison.
Right.
So I am thinking that it hasn't gotten all the way to the actual court dates yet. So I was thinking maybe because of the timing with COVID when this initially happened, although by 2021 when he was arrested, I don't know. Well, you know what? I do know there were still some things being done online for stuff like, but this is Texas. They probably never went online because it's Texas. But also I imagine there's mental health checks that are having to be done on him. Maybe there's time for the experts. I don't know. So that kind of, I almost didn't do it because there's no resolution, but I found it interesting enough. I decided to do it anyway. There's too many other cases I'm watching, waiting for them to finish in court so I can cover them. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. The Anti-Defamation League put out a statement that they appreciated police for taking the anti-Semitic bias seriously in their pursuit of the case, as both of the Kaufmans appear to be Jewish. Her maiden name was Garcia, so I don't know everything about that situation. Unfortunately, without more information, I can't say whether they were also targeted because of that religion, like I said earlier. It seems like a crazy coincidence that he was calling it a Jewish satanic cult and happened to kill the Kaufmans. So I just don't know. Unless maybe that was a neighborhood. I know that, there are neighborhoods sometimes where various groups of people end up gathering. But there's because it was a point was made about what that neighborhood was. I'm figuring that's maybe a higher income area because they were both attorneys.
Right.
So, and while I know not all attorneys are rich, they were working for the attorney general. They were probably doing okay.
So do you know if he knew who lived there?
No, and that's part of what frustrates me is since the court date hasn't happened, they haven't released, say, his manifesto and stuff.
So, because I'm thinking he may have seen the name Kaufman and just assumed.
Right. Like, did they have that on their mailbox or something? Or, one of those cutesy signs that says the Kaufmans, which, again, I'm very much against putting my last name out there. Although, all anybody has to do is pull our license plates and look that up because it's public record.
I did once interview a private investigator, and he was like, why the fuck would anyone put their last name on there? He was very anti.
These are all things that make me very uncomfortable. But again, just like putting out your political affiliation as an advertisement in front of your house or a bumper sticker in your car, I feel like you're going out there prepared to draw 50% of the population's ire. I know it's not exactly 50%, but you know what I mean? Like, you're going out there knowing that some people are going to be like, rah, rah, and the other half are going to be like, well, I'm going to key your car now. Even if it's that simple, I don't want my car keyed.
No. Because
I have a political sticker on my car. I have, on my car, I have alien images from aliens. That's what I have. And if that pisses somebody off, well, there's nothing I can do about that. But I'm very uncomfortable about it. I've also said I'm uncomfortable with having the stickers that show how many children are in your home, or that say my child is we got those bumper stickers because our kids were honor students at the middle school, and they just don't do it at the high school. But those went on our refrigerator. They're not going on our car because I am not advertising that A, I have children, and B, here's the school they go to.
Yeah.
Does nobody have any sense of self-preservation is what I'm asking you right now.
We need to bring back the after-school special.
We really do, we really do, though.
And we need to make adults watch
But it has to be a YouTube special because it's the only way the Utes will watch it.
Can we fit it in a TikTok?
TikTok after school. We have a new line, a new business line. Yep. Okay. But yeah, that's why I'm so deeply uncomfortable with this stuff. You're putting a part of yourself out there that doesn't need to be out there for strangers who don't know anything else about you to know, I guess, is my point. I guess that's one of my points. So, Alvarez was arrested by a SWAT team at his new job. He was a pizza delivery guy.
Oh, God.
They took him out with the SWAT team. The judge set bail at $2 million for the murder and $500,000 for the aggravated assault. Daniel has recovered from his wounds, as much as I'm sure you can with a shot to the head, but has stated that though he is relieved Alvarez has been arrested and charged, it won't bring his wife back.
No.
Out of curiosity, I did a search of crimes in the name of Trump. I found several articles listing a bunch of crimes that were directly pointed to as having been done in connection with Trump rhetoric. A Guardian article shared a long list of specific crimes, and I did read through all of them, while an ABC News article addressed numbers, so that's what I'm going to use here. A nationwide check easily brought up a minimum of 54 cases where Trump was specifically addressed as being the reason or inspiration for the crime in either a police report or a court documents.
Oh.
So that is specifically where they looked. So even if it was in the news and they said this, he attacked him because of his MAGA hat, if it was not in the police report or in the court documents, they did not count it. So I'm going to address that again in a minute, but just to be, this was very specific. They wanted documented related to Trump. The reporters also searched for crimes committed in the names of Obama and Bush Jr., finding 0 cases where one of those presidents was listed in court documents as being the reason for an attack of any sort. Trump has, with these accusations of, because clearly people have addressed his rhetoric inciting crimes, some very famous ones. He said his pushback was, I can name 2 crimes that Bernie Sanders were because of Bernie Sanders. But here's the thing. They did look into that as well. And they did put that in this article to be, fair. But they said neither in the police report nor in the court document was Bernie Sanders cited. So they were like, so here is this. It has been said. It did supposedly happen. But it was not listed. The perpetrators did not list it as their reason. Whereas in these other cases, it was the perpetrators listing this as why I did this. Trump said this, so I did this.
Okay.
That's what this is in relation to. I wanted to make that very clear. Because if you didn't read the article, it's not, right? So 0 cases in which Obama or Bush Jr. were the inciting incident as per the perpetrator to commit a crime. Interestingly, the investigation looked at both directions, meaning that 13 out of the 54 crimes were done to fight against Trump or his supporters and were cited as the reason for this. So it's not all going one way. But again, bearing that in mind, 0 crimes in the names of other presidents. And they looked at both a conservative and a liberal. The report only included cases where Trump was cited at those cases. So again, Trump, just because it was at a Trump rally, it does not end up in this.
Right.
Or at an opposing, not at a, if it happened at a Black Lives Matter and there was a MAGA hat, unless it is cited as their reason for doing it, it is not.
It sounds like whoever did this article had very good standards.
I felt like they were trying to be like, let's genuinely research this and not try to lean it in one direction or the other. So I appreciate that myself. So it's too easy for bias to creep into things, no matter how hard you don't want it to. Mm-hmm. A significant number of the cited cases involved beatings, or a lot of them were straight up sucker punch attacks. Punching somebody in the back of the head, punching somebody out of nowhere, that sort of thing, right? Just
unless they're a Nazi, that's not allowed.
Yeah. But there were larger, scarier ones, of course, including a pipe bombing campaign, a mall shooting, a mosque shooting. I was going to go more into that one, and I decided that deserves its own at some point. Okay. So yeah. A plan to blow up a largely Muslim apartment complex in Kansas was foiled, but would have been in Trump's name as well. The youngest perpetrator was a high school student, and the oldest was 75 years old. The vast majority were straight white men. There were several women and one man from the group Gays for Trump that committed crimes. The victims were a diverse group, way more diverse than the perpetrators, but there was a heavy emphasis on attacking Latinos and Muslims. They were mostly the people who were being attacked, or people who were brown enough to be considered one of those things when it turned out they had nothing, several of the people admitted to racial profiling, including a high school student and a college student who committed crimes. One of the perpetrators was a police chief in New Jersey who assaulted a young black man. So I just wanted to kind of summarize some of those. One crime that stuck out to me was a 32-year-old man named Daniel Rowe. He knifed a mixed-race couple who he'd seen kissing just on the street in general. He didn't know them. They Their crime was being a mixed race couple and kissing. He was a self-professed white supremacist and was on his way to a Trump rally where he stated he was going to, quote, stomp out more of the Black Lives Matter group. He went there for violence, is what I'm saying. And so this stuck out to me for multiple reasons. Again, I don't know if I've mentioned on here, but something that stuck with me very much is when I was a kid living in Maryland and I came across one of my neighbors crying, and I was probably like 11, but I was very precocious. So I approached her, and she was a young Black woman. Her husband was a white man. He was not there. And she was crying, and I asked her what was wrong, and I was talking to her, and she must have been in just a very bad place. And basically the gist of it was that another neighbor had attacked her because they did not believe in mixed race couples. It was a sin. It was bad. And that was the first, of course, that I knew that was even a bias.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like I learned also in Maryland about racism and the KKK when our local pool got attacked. And I was with my best friend who was a person of color and learned some more. I got a lot of harsh lessons in Maryland.
One of our listeners learned about all of this when they moved to Tennessee. When her family moved to Tennessee, and she was just like, what? Which
is nice that I got to go that long and be that naive. And I'm very clear on that was a privilege. So, but because of when that hit me and how that hit me and the discussion I had with her about it then, and it's always just very much stuck with me. So that is a thing that gets me a lot. So they both did survive. To be clear, neither of them was killed with this. He was charged with assault and malicious harassment and sentenced to 4 years in prison. That's attempted murder.
Yeah.
So to me, clearly this is like a plea deal maybe or something, a lesser
Quite
charge.
Possibly.
Or somebody wasn't taking it seriously. I don't know. On the flip side of that, again, to be equal, 4 young Black women tied up and assaulted a mentally disabled white man, and they streamed it online while they were doing it. And they were making him say, fuck Donald Trump and fuck white people. And it's not even clear if he was a Donald Trump fan or anything. He was just an easy target because he was mentally disabled. And 3 of them were sentenced to some prison time. Quick correction, it was 2 males and 2 females in this case. And one of those males was actually school friends with the individual that was kidnapped and attacked. My point being that no one in recent history has inspired and incited as much violence as Donald Trump. Reading through the over 50 incidents was disturbing, especially knowing there are probably far more cases that were not reported or followed up on, or who it wasn't mentioned that they specifically blamed something that Trump said or were inspired by. They weren't using blamed in these cases, right? A dismaying number of them yelled Trump 2020 while beating people or attacking people, just yelling Trump 2020, Trump 2020. Several of them just yelled Trump. This is insane behavior.
Yes.
Committing violence due to political differences is a regression, as far as I'm concerned, and is not the mark of a civilized nation, nor is committing crimes due to race, country of origin, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. And I feel we should be better than this. Mm-hmm. So that's why I cover this. Sources: Southwest ADL, El Paso County Case Search, El Paso Times, KTSM News, Newsweek, Inside Edition, and People.
Wow.
Which is why I'm pretty sure the case hasn't actually been tried yet, because some big places were covering this, because it's shocking.
Yeah.
To kill somebody because they had a Biden sign in front of their house, or a anything sign. To kill a household of people because they had a Trump sign would also not be okay.
We have a house in our neighborhood, not on our street, but a couple of blocks away. It's a big Pride house. Mm-hmm. And they have a lot of Pride stuff up. And at Christmas time, they were just tons of inflatable Christmas Pride stuff. So they had what was it? I can't remember what the inflatable was. I think it was a rainbow. I'm not sure. Somebody stole it out of the yard at night. And they had video, but you can't.
Yes.
Unless the person is holding up a sign with
their name. Unless you know that person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they posted it so that people would see, and they're like, we're not going to take our Pride stuff down. Somebody anonymously gave them another one.
Yeah.
It wasn't as big. It wasn't, because this was a big one. But still. Yes. And I was just like, someday I'm going to see them outside and I'm going to stop and say, I love your house.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. But I'm usually, when I'm out walking, it's in the middle of the day and normal people are working. So
I think no matter what
night, yes. people are locked in their houses.
Yes. No matter what our political leaning, I think we can all acknowledge right now that things are reaching very scary levels and that something has to give.
Yes.
Because when we're attacking people physically because of political differences, we have a problem. And
that's not okay.
Yeah.
It's never been okay.
No. I feel like we've regressed to the Wild West or something at this point.
Or further back into cavemen.
I'm not happy with politics the way they are either, obviously, but I'm not going to go kill somebody. I think about it sometimes, but that's probably not going to be the thing that pushes me over the edge.
All right, well, we need some mayhem now.
Yes, that's why we did this in this order.
Yes, so I'm going to give you some wicked mayhem. So, do you happen to know off the top of your head who fought in the Second Boer War, which was 1899 to 1902? I thought
the Bolsheviks, but no, I don't know.
I thought for sure you would say colonizers, which
Isn't that most wars?
That would be the short answer. It would be correct. The specific flavors would be the British versus the Dutch, German, or Huguenot farmers who had settled in South Africa. No, I misspoke. Southern Africa, not South Africa. I mean, partially, but
there's a difference.
Yes.
Okay.
Southern Africa.
Because South Africa's like a country.
Yes.
Okay.
So to everyone who's thinking, why the fuck do I care who fought the Boer War? So Thing One sent to me an episode of Puppet History, and I'm not going to give you the title. I will give you the title at the end. She sent it to me and said, Mom, this is mayhem. It was. So each side in this war had like a superstar scout to spy on the other side. On the British side was Frederick Russell Burnham. I mean, is there a more British sounding Frederick Russell Burnham? Frederick. So remember that name. It's going to come back up later. He was actually born in Minnesota. Right? I made that exact noise when I read that. He moved to Texas, and that was where he learned how to be a scout. So he was scouting and doing all kinds of Wild Westy things. So he tried to settle down and retire in Pasadena, of all places.
My God, he gets around.
Grew bored, and so he offered his services to the British as a scout. The Boers, who were the Dutch, German, and French Huguenot farmers, the Boers had the Black Panther. This was not a black man. This has nothing to do with the Marvel movie or the Marvel character. A writer at the time, Clement Wood, described the Black Panther as a walking, living, breathing, searing, killing, destroying torch of hate.
Wow.
Right? These two guys...
So he was lovable then.
Yeah.
Okay.
A real fuzzy hugger of a guy. So Frederick Fritz Joubert Duquesne had serious mayhem energy. He was born in September of 1877 in a British colony in what is now South Africa. His family, including his parents and two younger siblings, started a farm, and he made his living in the area hunting, selling skins, tusks, and horns. He claimed to be related to...
Related?
He claimed to be related to Piet Joubert, who was a hero in the First Boer War. This claim was unsubstantiated.
Yeah.
He made a lot of claims that were unsubstantiated. So when I'm talking about him, if he said it, you have to wonder. You have to say, well, So I try to take it with a grain of salt. He used several different identities throughout his life and was prone to embellishment. I have tried to stick to what other people proved about him and researched about him. So his father taught him to hunt, which was obviously a skill that served him well. Later in life, he made his living for a while publishing articles and giving lectures on big game hunting. So he took the black panther as his totem after observing one patiently waiting for the perfect moment to strike a water buffalo at a watering hole. That was where he got his name. So he committed his first killing at the age of 12 when a local man attacked his mother. A short time later, a Bantu war party attacked the settlement where his family lived, and he joined the other settlers in fighting back. It is very hard to fault someone who's fighting to protect their family.
But
it could be argued
somebody else's.
that the Bantu war party was doing the exact same thing.
Uh-huh.
So at the age of 13, Fritz was sent to school in England. It's a little unclear what he did when he finished. It's been suggested that he did a year at Oxford, then attended a military academy in Brussels. He says when he was traveling to Europe to study engineering, he met an embezzler named Christian de Vries, and took an around-the-world tour. Doesn't matter. After Britain began the Second Boer War, he returned to Africa and joined the Boer Commandos. Took a bullet in the shoulder. At one point, Fritz was put in charge of 1.5 million pounds of gold that was removed from the South African Mint and National Bank. It was to be shipped to President Paul Kruger in the Netherlands. Between the bank and the port through which the gold was going to be shipped, a violent disagreement broke out. 1.5 million pounds of gold. At the end, Fritz, 2 wounded Boers, and the native porters remained standing. Fritz instructed the porters to hide the gold in the cave of leopards, kill the wounded, burn the wagons, and take the remaining oxen and flee. So it wasn't like he wasn't giving them anything, except for one ox, which he kept for himself to ride out on. And it was just like, how on earth could you take that much gold out and just give it to somebody? Would you take this to the port for me?
I trust you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So back with the Boer forces, Fritz's company was captured and sent to an internment camp in Portugal. He befriended one of the guard's daughters, and she helped him escape and flee, first to Paris and then to England. Here's how ballsy Fritz was. In England, he enlisted in the British Army, and they sent him to South Africa, back to the Boer War. When he got there, he just went back to the Boers. He went back to his side. But he got the British to pay for shipping him back there.
Yeah, well, you know.
So, unfortunately, when he marched through the area where his family's homestead had been, he discovered that his family farm had been burnt to the ground. And this is an important point. Following Lord Kitchener's policies, which was also responsible, these policies, Lord Kitchener was British, these policies were also responsible for Fritz's mother being held in an internment camp, and his sister had been raped and killed. So he's got some rage. Justifiable. He's a British officer at this point. He returns to Cape Town bent on revenge, and he recruits 20 Boer men to help him disrupt the British installations and assassinate Kitchener. The wife of one of the 20 men, betrayed them, and so they were caught and court-martialed. The 20 Boers were executed, but Fritz bargained for his life, offering to reveal Boer plans and codes in exchange for his freedom. Now, until he died, Fritz maintained that he gave the British false information. Other people said he folded like a sack of wet cardboard. I read it both ways, so I cannot tell you. He was imprisoned in the Castle of Good Hope. Who the fuck names a prison the Castle of Good Hope? Well, the Dutch.
Yeah.
It's a fortification built by the Dutch in 1666. He almost dug his way out with a spoon, but a falling rock collapsed the tunnel and he was recaptured. He was actually trapped in the tunnel. They had to rescue him. He was then sent to the Imperial Fortress colony of Bermuda, where many Boers were sent. Bermuda, there are a lot of storms, there are dangerous reefs, and there are, I'm not kidding you, shark-infested waters. Yeah. So it was thought to be inescapable.
Okay.
Nope.
Nothing's ever inescapable.
No. So Fritz got out, climbed a barbed wire fence, and swam 1.5 miles through patrol boats and spotlights to the main island. There, sympathetic members of the Boer Relief Committee helped him slip away to the United States. It's not going to get less crazy. When he landed in New York City, he went to work as a reporter for several different papers. He also published 3 novels and worked as a travel correspondent.
Huh.
In 1910, he married Alice Wortley, but they divorced 8 years later. There was not a lot about his wife or their relationship. So, okay. So remember Burnham, the British spy, that was this guy's opposite.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Fritz had standing orders during the war to assassinate Burnham. But after the war, Burnham remained active in the spy game, and one of his duties was to keep track of his nemesis, Fritz, the Black Panther. This is just so fucking weird. So and it's me saying that. In 1910, Burnham partnered with Congressman Robert Broussard from Louisiana to start the New Food Supply Society, whose goal was to import useful African wildlife to the U.S. to solve the meat shortage. So, why? I know a lot of people are going, there was a meat shortage? Yeah, there was. Because the population was growing so quickly, there was overgrazing, and the fact that advanced livestock methods hadn't been developed yet.
And apparently they didn't know how to hunt deer?
Apparently no. No, people want beef.
Okay.
So Broussard hired Fritz as an expert consultant. Broussard introduced H.R. 23261, also known as the American Hippo Bill, attempting the appropriation of $250,000 to import hippopotami into the Louisiana bayous as food sources and to control the water hyacinth then clogging southern river systems. The title, I can now tell you, of the Puppet History episode was How Hippo Meat Almost Saved America. So these two guys who spent the Boer War trying to kill each other
very fatty meat, though, isn't it?
Are now back in the U.S. trying to work together to import hippopotamuses, which are... Okay, so... About hippos. PETA says hippopotamuses are dangerous and aggressive mammals who kill more people than any other mammal in Africa.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine?
And they're not even trying to eat them.
No, they don't.
They just want to fucking kill your face.
They just hate everyone.
Yes.
So imagine if the bayous of Louisiana were now full of hippopotamuses, like fucking Florida is full of pythons.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
I love it. I mean, it's bad. From an environmental standpoint, very bad. We should not import. But
no.
The image of going to the South and being like, there are the hippos.
So my question is, and who the hell knows, would a hippopotamus even eat the fucking water hyacinth? Because that's the problem. People bring in an animal to take care of something and it doesn't eat what you want it to take care of.
My favorite is when they bring an animal and take something and then they have to bring in a different animal to eat that animal for taking care, and then so on and so forth.
And they told two friends.
Cough, New Zealand. Yeah. Cough.
Yeah. You might be wondering who would back a measure like this. Former President Theodore Roosevelt. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Washington Post, and the New York Times all supported this. Fritz did testify before Congress, but the bill did not pass. But Fritz became buds with Roosevelt, became his shooting instructor and hunting guide. Fritz was also very big on supporting... I hate to even read this. He also was very big on supporting efforts of the Caucasian people to bring civilization to Black Africans. Yeah. He became a naturalized citizen, U.S. citizen at the end of 1913. Fritz made all kinds of friends, including some nice German-American industrialists. Around 1914, he became a German spy and went to Brazil as Frederick Fredericks. His cover was scientific research on rubber plants, while his real job was disrupting commercial traffic to countries that were at war with Germany. So he was responsible for planting explosives on several British ships, 22 of which sank. So he's responsible for sinking 22 British ships. Wow. One of his accomplices was caught and arrested, and he gave the authorities Fritz Duquesne's name, plus 2 aliases he was using. Fritz fled to Buenos Aires, where he managed to plant a newspaper article reporting his death in Bolivia at the hands of Amazon natives. But remember, he had worked.
Hey, how many indigenous groups can he fuck over at once?
All of them.
Yeah.
But remember, he did work for newspapers, so he knew how to talk the lingo, how to get... So he planted that. So he returned to New York City around mid-1916, where he perpetrated one of our favorite topics on this podcast, insurance fraud. Under his aliases, the balls on this man. Under his aliases,
aliens.
Under his fake name, he had purchased insurance on the mineral samples and films that he had placed on the British ships. Never mind that they were actually bombs. So he then went to England, where he posed as Russian Duke Boris Zakrzewski. Well, but here's the thing. Just the whole thing, he tried to collect insurance on ships he blew up for cargo that he didn't actually have. So anyway, he goes back to England. He poses as a Russian Duke. Guess who the Russian Duke met with on a ship off the coast of Scotland? None other than Field Marshal Kitchener, who you heard me refer to earlier as Lord Kitchener, the one responsible for the destruction of Fritz's family during the Boer War. While on this ship, which was heavily guarded, Fritz signaled to a German submarine, hopped on a life raft, and boogied his ass out of there and escaped the ship before it was torpedoed. Tornadoed. I do not word good today.
It was the whirlwind of activity.
And escaped the ship before it was torpedoed. Kitchener was killed, and Fritz was picked up by the submarine. And he was awarded the Iron Cross in Germany. So a year goes by. Back in the U.S., Fritz reconnects with Broussard, he of the Hippo meat bill. Broussard was unable to connect Fritz with the U.S. military. That was why he remade that connection. And Fritz found that the American public had lost their taste for tales of safari adventures. So his income fell off.
Hemingway just wiped him out.
Yeah. They weren't going to pay good money to hear him talk about big game hunting. So with the help of German intelligence, he reinvented himself again as war hero Captain Claude Stoughton from Australia, who had been bayoneted 3 times, gassed 4 times, and stuck with a hook.
This guy just lived... I mean, we can't say he didn't practice some ingenuity here.
That is true.
But what a fantasy life this dude led. I'm just going to write... It's so easy back then. It's way harder to reinvent yourself now.
But audiences then were eating this shit up, the war hero stuff. But in November of 1917, the insurance investigators back from that insurance claim finally caught up with Fritz Duquesne. The U.S. agreed to extradite him to England to stand trial for war crimes as long as he would be returned eventually to the U.S. to serve time for fraud. While awaiting extradition in New York, Fritz feigned being paralyzed in his legs and was transferred to the prison ward at Bellevue Hospital. He kept this up for 2 years and escaped, disguised as a woman, just days before he was due to be extradited. There are actual documents where where it's written that he was not an escape risk because he couldn't walk. He fled to Mexico and then back to Europe. He just could not stay away from the U.S. He came back in 1926 as Frank de Trafford Craven and worked for RKO Pictures Publicity.
Fun.
He was arrested again in 1932, but since Great Britain declined to pursue the charges, he was eventually released.
They were like, we're done with it. We're just not there.
We would rather he didn't come back here.
Yeah, you keep him.
I'm thinking they didn't want him at that point. You know where we're headed, of course. Fritz joined an American pro-Nazi group and once again began to spy for Germany, sending them intelligence on American operations and weapons. In June of 1941, Fritz and 32 other German spies were arrested by the FBI. Duquesne, now 64 years old, was sentenced to 18 years in prison and fined. In 1954, after serving 14 years, he was released due to failing health, physical and mental health, and he died in May of 1956 at the age of 78. He was cremated and buried in New York City's Potter's Field.
Yeah, he ended up in a Potter's Field
He ended
after
up
all that.
nobody after the adventures that he lived.
That's a little bit satisfying. That's a little bit ironic.
It is. But I mean, he didn't have to be a dick. He lived adventures.
Yeah. He's the type of person we'd make a movie about if he didn't live shit adventures as a shit person.
Yes. So my sources for this were Puppet History. Oh my God, if you've never seen Puppet History, you should. And the episode was How Hippo Meat Almost Saved America. Wikipedia and the PETA website.
Oh.
Because Puppet History I have found, because I've done other stuff. The Molassacre originally came from Puppet, I think. Or maybe
You hadn't heard of that before then?
I'm trying to remember. I may have watched the Puppet History on it after I had written it. But I got something else. Like I said, thing one.
I thought you got the yeeting one from there where they were yeeting the political rivals out the castle.
Oh, that might have been. Yes. That might have been the one. But anyway, I've discovered, because some of them I have researched and talked about here before I saw the episode, they stick to the facts. It is weird and wacky, but they do what they present is factual.
Okay.
They may not present, like, they didn't go into Duquesne's whole life because they were just talking about the two of them.
They only have so much time.
Yes. They were talking about Burnham and the Black Panther. And then they get how these two were sworn to kill each other. And then a few years later, they're both in the U.S. working to import hippos. That just throws me.
It's crazy.
And who knows? Who knows what hippo meat would be? I'm sure someone knows what hippo meat tastes like, but
fatty. Like in my brain, I'd compare it more to pig than anything else because aren't they fatty?
I do not know.
They float real well in water. No.
Do they though? I thought they mostly walked along the bottom.
Walk along the bottom. I don't know, man. They're round. That's all I know.
And they move surprisingly fast.
Yes.
As people in small
I watched a video
discovered.
Recently of a hippo following a boat, and it was like, oh, Jesus.
I think I saw
that. Go faster. No, it was an engine boat, and it was still going fast after
We were like,
it.
oh, fuck. This is not how
Y'all are going to die. I'm sorry.
And like you said, the hippo does not eat people.
No, it's just mad.
It just is. The hippo is, yeah.
It's like the old curmudgeonly man, like, get off my lawn.
Get off my river.
Yes. So, all right, more power to you, hippos.
And when I was reading this, when I was researching this, there was a program at a zoo, a proposal for a program in a zoo. I want to say it was in California, but I'm not 100% on that, where they wanted to have a thing where patrons could pay to come in and have the hippo experience, and you could touch the hippo mother and her hippo baby.
Oh.
And I'm like, how many people would die in the first day?
So Cheyenne Mountain Zoo they go in, the keepers go in and feed the hippos in front of everybody, and it's a whole big thing. But yeah, bringing in your friends, probably not they're like, a hippo will just wake up one day and say, I'm going to fuck up a lion today. Yeah. And they're just going to do it.
Yeah.
They're just going to, because everybody's got a drink.
This is true.
All the animals got a drink.
They got to come to the river. Although I would think a lion with a half a brain cell would be like,
yeah, I'm not going to that.
I'm not going to that part of the river.
Forget that noise. I see you all over there. I see your ears.
They don't hide.
And your nostrils.
They don't. They're not like crocodiles and alligators that just look like logs floating.
Well, but they sometimes. I mean, you see the one with like just like their
Nostrils.
their nostrils poking up and like 2 little ears behind the nostrils.
Those big, round, hairy nostrils. And the 2 cute little ears.
Yeah, they're actually like kind of cute, which is bad. Like, listen, nature. We need to have a talk.
Yeah.
I've said that a lot in my lifetime. I recall saying, listen, Mother Nature, it's all well and good to give the cobras venom, but do they need to be able to spit it?
True.
Like, let's talk about this for a minute. If this is a defense mechanism, could they not attack people and spray some venom at them? All right, so we've reached the end of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
If you know what hippo tastes like, I suppose you
please
should
let
tell
us know.
But only if you didn't poach it. And,
as in illegally kill it, not poach it as in the preparation in the kitchen.
Check us out on Buy Me a Coffee /MM Mayhem, where you can support our show in multiple ways for as little as $1 a month or a one-time donation. Did that sound commercially enough?
It did.
Woot woot. Okay.
Either commercially or phone sexy. I'm not sure.
No, that's a different voice. All right. Thank you for listening.
We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram or at our website, mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com.
Please like, rate, and review, follow, and share wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.
Thank you for listening and supporting our podcast. We'll be back next week with more shenanigans.